Hey, what is up everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here today. A monumental, huge announcement was made this morning where basically WWE is going to be doing a huge Super Showdown tour in Australia coming up in October. This is big news. This was actually announced by Vince McMahon himself on Twitter this morning. They made a big deal about this. It almost looks like that they rolled this out on the WWE Network with some sort of huge video. They built a set for this. It looks like it's going to be a really big deal. As of right now, what most people are talking about is the announced main event, which would be Triple H going up against The Undertaker. We have been guaranteed that almost every member of the Raw and SmackDown roster will be at this show. I'm sure that there will be some sort of NXT surprises. There's legends to be named, like Shawn Michaels was named, Kurt Angle was named, a lot of people from the history. The best thing that I can sort of point to and relate this to is the world's greatest Royal Rumble that just went down after WrestleMania in Saudi Arabia. That looked like that was going to be a really big show. That was a really big deal. And when it came out, it honestly just sort of fell flat. It seemed like it was just a long 4-hour house show that was put up on the WWE Network. There is no real announcement that this will be streaming live on the WWE Network, but in the video, it does say that we'll be able to see this. So I'm guessing it's going to be on the WWE Network. It doesn't seem like it's going to be a pay-per-view, going back to the old school ways of having to call up DirecTV or anything like that and trying to order this deal. But I think that a lot of people blew their lid when they first heard about this, but because of what happened to the world's greatest Royal Rumble, with basically the Royal Rumble not having any sort of stipulation to go along with it, nobody got a title shot. Braun Strowman got a title that we'll probably never see again until the days of going to WrestleMania Access and seeing it there. He didn't even bring it to Monday Night Raw the next night. It didn't really make a lot of sense, what they were really trying to get over here. I'm not the biggest, time zone kind of guy. I don't know what time this show will be on. I know Australia is it's like when they put the globe up, Australia is like on the other side of the world, even though they're over here. So I'm guessing that their timeline, when it's Saturday there, it might be Sunday here. I don't know, man. It's going to be weird, but it's going to be fun. It's like I'm sitting here complaining about a wrestling show that we all know that I'm going to watch. This seems like it's going to be a really big deal. Hopefully we can get some big matches that we can all hope to see. But just think about this. The Undertaker versus Triple H match, which is named here. The last time that we're ever going to see this. Just sort of relate this to the Rusev versus Undertaker match at the world's greatest Royal Rumble, or even the Undertaker versus John Cena match. Taker doesn't have a lot of gas left in the tank, so don't be expecting the greatest match of all time, especially when you think about what Triple H did with John Cena at the world's greatest Royal Rumble. It's going to be a good show. It's going to be fun. I don't know much about the Melbourne cricket ground. I will honestly tell you that I read the tweet so fast this morning that I thought they were talking about Madison Square Garden and they weren't really going to Australia. So I thought that this wasn't as big as a deal as it is. But I know people of Australia have always really been looking for WWE to come back. I'm not sure if this is a WWE show where basically they sold the rights, so they're already getting their money up front, like the world's greatest Royal Rumble. They made over $2 million because of the fact they were paid for the show. I believe the travel was paid, and on top of that, they were able to sell, merchandise and not have to, basically split merchandise costs or anything like that. So they just made money hand over fist. So I'm sure that this might be another deal like this. There's a lot of money to be made in Australia. Australia is a really growing wrestling crowd. I know that I think it's William Ospreay tours there all of the time because of how popular wrestling is right now. I can't remember a big show going there since the Global Warming Tour, which I believe is a DVD that came out back in 2002. It was not one show, but it was over a tour, and they just showed matches throughout the tour that went down, highlighted by the Brock Lesnar versus Triple H versus The Rock match. Triple threat for the WWE Championship. That match wasn't great, but I think everybody's owned that DVD in their DVD collection and has seen it. It's been put out on like some hidden gems on the WWE Network, as well as on YouTube and things like that. Matches that you never knew happened because it didn't happen in the United States. So I know that they're happy. I can honestly tell you that this is one step closer to WrestleMania actually going over to the UK, maybe going to England, something that we've been making videos about here on YouTube since 2010. We're getting closer to that date that something like that happens, or at least that maybe getting their own WrestleMania tour, I guess you can say. If they were able to move the UK tour, I know that it happens mostly right after WrestleMania every year, so if they were able to move that back a month, maybe even 2 months, and actually make that an actual pay-per-view show, and then they can do Raw, they can do SmackDown on that tour as well. I think that would be a really big deal for the UK, especially for WWE to make a lot of money. I know that there's got to be a lot of wrestling fans in the UK that don't make the trip to WrestleMania. There's got to be just as many of them over there as there is here. And for people in the United States to say that WrestleMania is the United States exclusive, just honestly have their heads buried in the sand, because WWE is honestly going to go wherever the money is. And I believe there is money to be made there. It's already been well seen by the shows like the World's Greatest Royal Rumble or the Beast in the East, which was a few years ago on 4th of July, that basically wrestling fans, especially now with New Japan Pro Wrestling as well, if there's something they want to watch, they're going to watch it. It doesn't matter how they have to watch it. It doesn't matter what time they have to watch it. They're going to go out of their way to see a big show like WrestleMania, even if it means they have to see it live and they have to watch it on Saturday from London live on the WWE Network. So we'll see what goes down with this. It should be a big show. We're talking about a few of the other things going down with it, and we'll catch back with you later. Hey, what is up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here today. We're going to be talking about that big WrestleMania-like show coming to you live from Australia. This is the WWE Super Showdown coming to you live from Australia in October. It's pretty cool that WWE is going to be doing this show in Australia and be giving it to us more than likely on the WWE Network. They rolled out the red carpet for this. They made it a big deal. I'm not 100% sure if this is basically WWE just going there and doing a show on their own, or much like the World's Greatest Royal Rumble, that basically somebody in Australia said, hey, we can bring WWE here, and it could be a big event, and they just put the money down to bring WWE there. WWE is going to be bringing, the full roster of Monday Night Raw, as well as SmackDown. There's no doubt in my mind that we're going to be seeing some sort of, NXT surprises. As they've already said there's going to be a lot of legends, but as of right now, there's already one main event named for this show. It's going to be The Undertaker going one-on-one against Triple H. And this one is guaranteed to be the last encounter of the end of an era. This, of course, went down WrestleMania 27 and WrestleMania 28. There were a lot of other encounters that happened, especially the WrestleMania 17 match, and I'm sure a lot of other pay-per-views as well as Monday Night Raws along the way, but a lot of people threw eggs at the end of an era at WrestleMania 28. It was a really good match. They told a really good story with Shawn Michaels being the special guest referee. But at the end of the day, I think a lot of people were thinking that the end of an era meant that we were not going to be seeing Undertaker and Triple H wrestling anymore. But the WWE sort of put out a feeler of this was the last time that people from this era were going to be wrestling each other, and that's what the end of an era was, sort of putting the Attitude Era to bed, because of course the Undertaker would return to take on CM Punk at WrestleMania 29. Triple H would have, matches with Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam, and as well as WrestleMania 29, and then of course wrestling when needed. He's been at every WrestleMania since, and just about every time anything sort of popped up. He does sort of disappear during football season. He doesn't know the right time. He even was WWE champion since then, winning a Royal Rumble to become WWE champion and wrestling in the main event of WrestleMania 32 against Roman Reigns, to put huge exclamation points on this. But, when I first saw that they tweeted out that this show was going to be going down, and they called it the Super Showdown, I honestly thought that they were making a big deal about a Madison Square Garden show because of the fact there's been a lot of talk about, Ring of Honor and AAA trying to run Madison Square Garden, the biggest wrestling, mecca, the home of WWE for so long before them packing up their bags and heading to Barclays Center to basically just have a new arena that fits more people, be better for television, and just not having the huge costs that Madison Square Garden does. But this is going to be coming to you from Australia in the NGC Center, where they play cricket there. I don't know a lot about cricket. But it's got to be big there if they have their own freaking stadium there for it, and it's built for that. But with it, sort of being the dome-like structure of it being a circle. I mean, there is no top over the top, but this is going to be big. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm trying not to put a lot of expectations on this match. If you think about the last two Undertaker matches that we've seen, that of course would be the John Cena match at WrestleMania, where everybody normally just goes all out. And instead we saw, Undertaker beat John Cena in about 3 minutes. Nothing really big there. Didn't really take any bumps. I don't know if that's just basically Vince trying to get the most out of them, because right after that they announced that Undertaker was going to be wrestling at the World's Greatest Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia, where he had a casket match against Rusev, where basically we saw Undertaker's 5 moves of doom, saw him throw Rusev into the casket, and that was about it. Basically, we got to see the Undertaker entrance. We got to see the Undertaker do his pose down once it was all done, and, them roll the casket back to the back. So that's basically what Undertaker has come down to. So, I mean, even the Triple H match, against John Cena at that show, they wrestled, they had a match. It definitely wasn't in the top 10 matches that either one of those guys had. It looked like those guys rolled back the clock and were just wrestling just a normal house show to be there. I know that there was a lot of negative feelers about the World's Greatest Royal Rumble once it was done. Maybe WWE's gonna have to step their show, the style of show up for the WWE Super Showdown. It's gonna be a fun one. It's gonna be a big one. Definitely Triple H, who has not beaten The Undertaker in his last 3 appearances, is gonna want to step it up to try and get that win. I don't really see it happening. I don't see Undertaker losing any of these farewell matches because of the fact you never know when his last one is going to be. When Undertaker has normally had to get some sort of a surgery to repair himself after a big match. It normally takes him almost the whole year to recover, to come back for the next one. And who knows, at this point, The Undertaker might be wrestling against somebody on the roster against anybody at SummerSlam, and they might want, well, no, never mind, because this is happening so far in the future. It's in October. You don't want to take him out of the hunt for WrestleMania the next year, because at this point there is no ending The Undertaker's career. They have to pay it off somehow, and the Roman Reigns loss would have been the best way to do it, but for some reason they keep digging this guy up and bringing him out here. So I guess I did just screw up a little bit and lose my train of thought, but we do these videos off the cuff. I don't really think about them a lot before I come in here and do these. So, that's really going to be it. I'm sure that if this match gets closer, if they decide to talk about it on television and make it some sort of an actual storyline, with Triple H, delivering promos against the dead man, calling him out or something like that, it's going to make it bigger. But at this point, I'm going to go into it with low expectations, knowing that it probably is going to be the last time that I get to see these guys wrestle against each other. And WrestleMania 27, is one of my favorite matches that I've ever seen. Television, live, anything, regardless, that it's going to be hard not to have expectations. But I think if I go into them with lower ones, It's going to be fun. I've already said 1,000 times, I don't think Triple H will win another match in his career. At this point, with him being the so-called Vince McMahon of WWE, taking on that business-like role, it doesn't make sense for him to be going out there burying guys along the way. I do think that he will have programs along the way where maybe he gets the better of somebody on Monday Night Raw. But when the match comes down, whether if it's against Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, if he has another match against, well, he did beat Ambrose. If he has another match against Dean Ambrose, I think that he's going to be doing the job for just about anybody on the roster, even if it's the freaking Brooklyn Brawler who comes back for another shot at it. So we'll see what goes down with this one. It's going to be going down October 6th from Australia. I'm sure we'll see it on the WWE Network. My biggest question is what time that means we're going to see it here in the United States. But I guarantee you, just like that World's Greatest Royal Rumble where I was at work when it was on because it was just a random Friday that I normally have off, I had to work. I'm sure I'll watch it the second I get home. Alright, this is it. We gotta get the skeleton out of the closet. Stevie Breach coming back to you out for another one. Today's monumental announcement of the WWE Super Showdown coming to you live from Australia, October 6th. I think it's really cool that they're going to be doing this. More cool than anything else is that they basically just didn't rip off another pay-per-view and just give that title to the show. Even if it is the Super Showdown, maybe in my opinion they should have gone with WWE WrestleFest to bring that one back, or they could have just gone with the stealing the 2002 DVD, the Global Warming Tour of 2002. I'm glad that, when we debate whether the world's greatest Royal Rumble stats actually count for Royal Rumble stats in the future, that, it was a WWE Network special, and, I know what side of the fight that I'm going to be on. I think that the one thing that got most people talking more than anything else is the way that when they named their announcement, Shawn Michaels to be making an appearance at the Showdown. A lot of people took that as Shawn Michaels be wrestling one more match. There's been lots of rumors flying around for the last month that, Shawn is getting ready to scratch that itch and have one more match in WWE because of him basically being a coach at NXT, him having to, be around the wrestling ring and the guys sweating and going out there and giving it their best. Seeing guys that call themselves the best in the world and, just wanting to see how he's able to level up against those guys. I'm sure that that Shawn's gotten in the ring with these guys and he's tied up a lot like when you saw Stone Cold Steve Austin on Tough Enough get into the ring and actually tie up with a few guys to actually see what it was like to get in there with them. It's got to be a huge boost to the ego to think that you're able to hold your own against them and just wonder what it'd be like if you actually got into shape, to go out there and give a 15, 20, 30-minute match and wonder if you're able to deliver to what the Mr. WrestleMania or the Showstopper, the whole effing show, no, it's RVD, the main event, if he could deliver to what Shawn Michaels was at that point. I know there's a lot of guys in my mind that I would love to see Shawn Michaels go up against, whether if it's, him against AJ Styles, which was a rumored match for the Royal Rumble the year before last, or if it's Shawn Michaels against Samoa Joe, when Michaels, was doing an interview and said if he could wrestle anybody on the roster, he would want to wrestle against Joe. If it's just dream guys that are in NXT, whether if it's him wrestling against a guy like Adam Cole, there's a lot of matches that could happen, and almost anything that really does pan out, I would love to see it. At this point, I don't care what rumor is out there. I would bet my money that Shawn is never going to get in the ring and actually wrestle a televised house show, anything, for money. Kind of thing. I think that, we're lucky enough to get him, teaching at the Performance Center, lending his knowledge of what it took him to be, a main event guy in WWE, maybe telling them the stories about what it's like being on the road with his buddies and maybe trying to steer people away from going into the pitfalls of, the ego that came along with being the WWE champion, or the drug problem that he's, spoken against and written about in his books, pushing him to a point in his life when, he was just one bad night away from ending his life and not being able to live it with his family, and things like that. So I don't think that Shawn's going to want to do it. There's lots of stories out there of him not wanting to disrespect The Undertaker after the matches they had at WrestleMania 26 and WrestleMania 27. There's stories out there that Shawn has regrets about Ric Flair and the send-off that he got at WrestleMania 24, and then of course Rick going and wrestling in Australia, doing the Hulkamania tour, or Rick going and wrestling in TNA. I'm sure that if you sat him down in a room and you hooked him up to a lie detector test, I'm sure that Shawn knows who Ric Flair is. I'm sure that, Rick did it because of the fact that he needed the money. Needed the money. Like, really needed it. That he was in a bad place, and he just wasn't going to be able to be Ric Flair anymore if he wasn't able to do that. And I don't think we want to see Ric Flair jump down from the class that he is to being just middle-class Rick, having to basically do, picture and autograph, wrestling legends house shows every week just to be able to, pass it by. It's cool that he does, them here and there along the way to make him rare enough that he makes a lot of money then when he does it and he doesn't, water himself down. But there's plenty of guys out there, Brutus Beefcake, Greg the Hammer Valentine, Coco Beware, guys of the 80s, is that they're basically coming to your town twice, maybe even 3 times a year. And how many pictures are you going to be able to get with those guys before you're just like, I'm not giving them my money anymore because what's different? You know what I mean? How many autograph figures do I really need? And how many autographs do I really need in the encyclopedia of the same guy? We've all been there. So I don't think Shawn's coming back, but it's fun to talk about, and we'll see what goes down. The show's going to be in October. A lot could change between here and then, but I'm thinking more than likely that Shawn is just going to be some sort of a tie-in to the Triple H versus Undertaker match, playing off of what happened at WrestleMania 28, whether that means that he's the special guest referee anymore, or if he's just in the corner of Triple H, and we actually see the master plan. I gotta tweet Brian Alvarez about that. He talked about that freaking master plan of Triple H and Shawn Michaels for like 5 years. He's probably still talking about it now. So we'll see what goes down with that. Peace out, everybody.